Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen and fellow participants. Today we gather here to debate a topic of immense significance, the use of nuclear weapons and how the idea of using them has evolved over time. The advent of nuclear weapons in the 20th century has reshaped the global power dynamics and ignited debates on morality, security, and the preservation of human life. In this debate, we shall present arguments from both sides, examining the potential benefits and dangers associated with nuclear weapons and tracing the shifting perceptions of their use throughout history. Let us explore this topic in depth, shedding light on the complexities and ramifications of this highly contentious issue.
The historical context of nuclear weapons started in the early 1940s during World War II. The scientific community became aware of potential to create a new weapon through nuclear fission. Concerned that Nazi Germany might develop atomic weapons first, the United States initiated the top-secret Manhattan Project in 1942. The project aimed to develop an atomic bomb and was led by scientists such as Robert Oppenheimer. The Trinity Test. As part of the Manhattan Project, the United States successfully conducted the Trinity Test on July 16, 1945 in New Mexico. It was the first ever detonation of a nuclear device and demonstrated the immense destructive power of atomic weapons.
Ladies and gentlemen, the debate will now begin. The use of nuclear weapons was necessary to end World War II and to deter further aggression by hostile nations. In August 1945, the U.S. dropped atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, which led to Japan's surrender and the end of World War II. President Truman made the difficult decision to use these weapons because he believed it would save American lives and bring the war to a swift conclusion.
Many miles away.
As he said in his statement to the nation on August 9, 1945, we have used it in order to shorten the agony of war, in order to save the lives of thousands and thousands of young Americans.
I think the use of nuclear weapons isn't good because the use of nuclear weapons were unjustified and set a dangerous precedent for the future use of such weapons. The bombings at Hiroshima and Nagasaki were not only devastating in terms of human life, but they also had a long-term effect on the health and environment of the region. The use of nuclear weapons set a dangerous precedent for other nations to develop and use such weapons in the future. As President Eisenhower warned in his Atoms for Peace speech in 1953, we must never let the weight of this combination endanger our liberties or democratic possessions.
Gavin, I agree with those points, but while the use of nuclear weapons is certainly devastating, it is also a necessary tool for deterrence. During the Cold War, the US and the Soviet Union both built up their nuclear arsenals, which led to a state of mutual deterrence, known as MAD, or mutually assured destruction. The strategy prevented either side from using weapons because the consequences would be too great. The idea of nuclear weapons being used as deterrence has continued to the present day and is seen directly in the Biden-Harris national security strategy. Nuclear deterrence remains a top priority for the nation and foundational to integrated deterrence. A safe, secure, and effective nuclear force undergirds our defense priorities by deterring strategic attacks, assuring allies and partners, and allowing us to achieve our objectives if deterrence fails.
The use of nuclear weapons carries the inherent risk of escalation, as it may trigger a chain reaction of return actions, leading to a catastrophic nuclear exchange. Additionally, nuclear weapons increases the likelihood of their heightening risk of unauthorized or accidental use. The prospect possesses a grave threat to global community, security, and stability. Just by countries having these weapons ready for war possesses a threat that one might overreact and lead to a major war, which is what was happening between the Soviet Union and the United States.
As Gavin mentioned, this race between the Soviets and the US caused the Senate to directly visit situations on how to prevent an attack. This entailed preparing nuclear weapons to be ready in a few minutes' notice, just in case of a Soviet-born attack, which is why the nuclear weapons are necessary. The nuclear arms race between the United States and the Soviet Union during the Cold War dramatically elevated the risk of nuclear conflict. As the Soviets developed massive numbers of nuclear weapons and systems to deliver to the United States, we planned for the unthinkable: how to get our missiles in the air within those few minutes before their warheads could hit us and possibly destroy our ability to respond, which is exactly why we need to continue with making nuclear weapons.
Although Liam has some great points, these continued problems with nuclear weapons began to be lessened by different treaties. The first was in response to the atomic bombs that were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The devastation of Hiroshima and Nagasaki promoted calls for disarmament. The Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons was established in 1968 and was aiming to prevent the spread of nuclear weapons and promote disarmament. The treaty signed by most nations acknowledged that the need to lessen the risk associated with these weapons.
Although Gavin makes a good point, the use of nuclear weapons is still needed to create less risk for our country in times of war. This did not stop the change that began to happen, though. People began to believe that nuclear power was not necessary, and they were inhumane and did not look out for civilians. This caused issues in how our government looked by the funds they were using on nuclear power. This caused issues for our nation, as if we don't have the funds for nuclear weapons, we will be unable to protect ourselves in times of war. And this continued idea of denuclearizing our military is a bad idea, and the need for nuclear weapons is still there.
I support this and what the people begin to do, as nuclear weapons are not needed in my opinion. I believe that they are inhuman. The growing awareness of the consequences of nuclear weapons has fueled the disarmament movement. Studies on the long-term effects of radiation, coupled with increased concern for civilian casualties, have led to a revolution of morality of their use.
To conclude, the positives of nuclear weapons are that they act as a powerful deterrent, maintaining global stability and preventing major conflicts. These weapons have helped to maintain a balance of power among nations and discourage aggression for many years, and they have shown their purpose time and time again, which is exactly why we need to keep nuclear weapons around, and that's why I support it.
To conclude, the devastating consequences of their use, combined with the growing awareness of the risks and pursuit of disarmament efforts, have led to greater emphasis on diplomatic solutions and non-proliferation measures. As we move forward, it is crucial for our nation to continue engaging in strengthening existing agreements and exploring innovative approaches to maintain global security with relying on the destructive power of nuclear weapons. This is why I support the movement in getting rid of the use of nuclear weapons.